Cool. Well, thank you guys, everybody, for joining. We know it's very cold out there, so hopefully you guys are trying to stay warm as best you guys can. Real quick, like Rick said, this is going to be a fairly deeper, programming session. Not a lot of slides on this stuff. There's obviously a few things that we want to kind of show you with it, but definitely more demos and setups and things like that. So, real quick heads up on who we are, though. So, like I said, my name is Brett Bjorkquist. I've been with Logitech for about 2 years now. I was recruited in, like I said, from an industry channel specifically to build out the custom install pro channel for Logitech for Harmony. My background, I've got about 18 years. I started, for anybody that's been on the West Coast side, with Good Guys. Opened my own shop, CEDIA, ISF, HAE certified. And then kind of started working on the manufacturer side for a while. And like I said, it's been great. I've been able to see the things that we can do with Harmony. It's been really impressive. So like I said, we're continuing to grow and support, and that's really what we're working on right now. So that's a little bit of me, and then we've got Pike here to my left.
Morning, everyone. So yeah, my name is Pike. I just recently had my 13th anniversary with Logitech. I had been with Harmony basically since the day I started. It's been a great journey so far. A little bit about my role within Logitech and kind of how I came to be part of the Pro channel. I kind of started my journey in customer support, where I also took dealer calls way back in the day. Really enjoyed that. Also really liked how we handle our data. So from there, I transitioned to our data team. And also, of course, getting all that feedback from installers and clients. I then transitioned to QA. So I've worked on a lot of software features as well. As of nowadays, me and Brett really are fully focused on the Pro channel and really working on the success with installers as yourself. We host webinars, we make trainings, which we'll be showing as well, expos. We're both product owners of the portal, new features and such, which we're really excited to share with you. And let's go ahead and kick it off.
Yeah, so real quick in that, you guys, you can see Pike's information's on there. My information is on there as well. We have some other slides with info too. We get hit up a lot by dealers. The reality is, with 18 years on my side in the industry doing install, Pike's 13 years, the absolute Harmony guru. We've got a great
big brain.
Yeah, we've got a great dealer service team that we'll talk about later on. But when you guys have questions and you're out in the field, ping us. We're always happy to help and get you guys squared away. That's that piece of the really dealer support that we like to always get out there. So with that being said, we're going to run through quite a few different things in here. We will start with a few numbers. These are numbers that the dealers usually like to see, just to kind of get a broad spectrum of what Harmony does. And then right from there, we'll go into the Pro Portal update, run through all of that live, do some control and setup, some advanced programming. We've built some really cool macros and some different things that again, we were told that this wanted to be a little bit more advanced. And then we'll walk into some of the dealer support options that you guys have as well, and then we'll go from there. So let's go ahead and start with some connected home trends. So here you can see, so Harmony actually controls over 2.4 million light endpoints. And this is something that really I don't think everybody fully understands. They think of Harmony and it's like, okay, well, that's when I do the TV and the cable box, and then I step up to something else if I'm doing something bigger that requires lighting or audio distribution or any of those kind of pieces. And the way I always like to say it is that Harmony it's a single room entertainment, but a whole house home control, meaning that it's designed to control the TV, let's say in the family room, and you put another Harmony remote in the bedroom to control those systems. But any of those systems can control, like in my house, I have 40 RAW2 Select lights. So, as I run that, I have 12 Sonos zones. I've got, my Nest thermostat. So, when I look at the sub-control systems, all those pieces are in there and all of them are really easy to be able to program. So like I said, 2.4 million, it's actually quite a few lights. So you can be guaranteed pretty much that, people that like Harmony, those Harmony Power users, are also lighting guys. Looking at Sonos, so again, we were just talking about Sonos, over 500,000 Sonos devices attached to Harmony Hubs. So again, we're definitely one of the largest partners with Sonos from that perspective. And we know AllNet's always done really great with them too. What's interesting here in the data, you guys, and again, why it becomes important for the dealers to really be talking. If you're talking to somebody about Harmony, you should be talking to them about Sonos. You can see from the percentages here, a Harmony user is actually more likely to have 5 or more Sonos speakers in their home than they are to have just one. So again, maybe they're starting with one today and it's a Playbar or Beam. But again, we know that they're growing with it because they like the way Harmony interacts with it. So again, really cool data in there that not everybody gets to see, but we like to share with our groups here. As we look on here, so this is showing, like I said, all the ways to watch Netflix, since obviously that's what a lot of people are doing with streaming. But again, really good information here. Since 2014, you can see we have 1.5 million Apple TVs that have been connected to Harmony remotes. 500,000, so over 500,000 Roku devices, almost 500,000 Fire TVs. So again, you guys, if you're looking at streaming, I know this one's not live, so I can't just ask the question in there. But my question would be, are you guys actively putting in streaming devices, or are you just kind of whenever they ask for it or whatever they have you connect it? This is definitely a way to to look at some options in there. People definitely want it, and I always say I don't want people going into my installs afterwards. What's really interesting, real quick on here, if you look in just the last year. So Fire TV since 2014 has done 450, so almost 500,000 units. But in just the last 12 months, they've actually, we've added 218,000 Fire TVs. And so that means that really it's almost gone up 100%, just in the last year. And I think a lot of that has to do with obviously Alexa. And so again, we can see in here that just in the last 2 years, we've actually made over 500,000 voice connections. So again, if I ask you guys, are you consistently installing voice control into your systems? And for most people, when we'll run through and we'll run some polls, a lot of times it's like, okay, maybe only if they ask, not a whole lot. What are you doing with it? Just so you guys know, Harmony, and we'll show some of the stuff in here in a little bit. I'm going to refrain from using their names at the moment.
Well, they're muted.
They're muted?
Okay. Alexa or Google.
Okay, so, with Alexa and Google, so any activity that's created in Harmony, favorite channels, play, pause, mute, anything that you're setting up in that Harmony activity can be controlled both on Alexa and on Google. And people actually, the ones that are using that actually find a lot of value in that, I think. So like I said, just some other information in there. Again, you guys, a lot of this is just to spur any questions. So if you guys do have any questions, toss them in the chat and we'll talk about them later on. But I want to make sure we get some time here to go into the Pro Portal. So let's go ahead and do that.
All right, excellent. I'm just gonna switch screens there. All right, excellent. So it looks like we can see my screen here. Perfect. Switch to the keyboard. So this is the newly updated Logitech Pro Portal. We've done a significant amount of changes on the UX, a lot of new features. So the website, as you can see there, is pro.myharmony.com. Registration is very straightforward. We just basically click on request an account. And as you can see here, this is where you basically provide all your information. And if you have a website as well. And what's great about this information too is that this is used as well when a welcome email is sent to the customer, welcoming them with their new remote, and it has your company name and info in there embedded as well, including a website if you have one. So again, that's a great way to kind of, add your name to that as well. So as you can see, this is basically where you submit and request a dealer account. They are usually processed by our team within 2 business days. Now, when it gets busy, I myself process some as well. So during webinars, a lot of times I will be keeping a close eye on it. So most of them will probably be processed within a day, if less than a day. You will then actually get an email where you activate your dealer account. And once the dealer account has been activated, you can log in, which we're going to do so right now. So
just a side note for everyone. So they invited me to log into this when we were beginning the planning stages of this. So it took me, I think, 24 hours to get that email back. So don't wait until the morning of your install to do this. Go ahead and do it now or do it this week.
Yeah, it's free. There's no cost attached to it. It's a great tool, which you'll see. So yeah, great point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And real quick, not to go, but we get a lot of guys, you guys, and we love that enthusiasm of it. They're like, yeah, we did this, and I've got an install tomorrow, and I'm going to go put in my first Harmony remote. And while it's a very simple system, you guys, and that's what we're known for, and what we strive to be. Definitely play with it before you go putting it into people's homes. You know, like I said, the few times where we get calls are those brand new guys, and we love to help them. But like I said, it's a much smoother, kind of transition if you get a chance to play in the portal, know how it works, understand the Harmony software. We've got some great trainings, which Pike will show you where those are at. Real quick and easy to learn. Like I said, literally within an hour, you could be very proficient in programming Harmony. But like I said, take those steps. It just makes everything smoother for you.
Yeah, and speaking of training, right now we are working on completing the training for the portal. So that is at this point not available yet, but again, you're getting a training on this webinar, so that's gonna help. But I still recommend taking that training because it really walks you through. And again, we'll dive into that. Our trainings are a lot more interactive. So we use Adobe Captivate, which allows us to capture the clicks. So you actually navigate through the software applications that we cover on our trainings. So it's almost like doing the real thing. And to that point, what I really advise is before you do a Harmony install or play with it at a home, we actually have a training that walks you end to end to a full new setup. It includes Sonos, adding devices, creating activities, adding lighting. I think we add Lutron to it as well. So it's a great training to get a whole overview on setting up your first Harmony remote. And once you've done that, when you get your own unit, it will already be very familiar. So let's go ahead and log into the portal. So what we first are welcomed with is our homepage. And this is where we really improved from the first version of the portal, because Brett and I, again, we love reaching out to installers and sharing new articles of case studies, other dealer feedback, promos when we have new webinars. So as you can see, we have banners up here, but you'll see by next week there'll probably be 5 banners up there because we've got a whole lot of things going on. And what's great about this homepage is that it allows us to kind of communicate to you kind of what is new, what promos perhaps we have, new case studies that we've done. So it's a great way to kind of stay updated. So these banners are great to check out. Again, there's a great case study there that we did with Digital Delight. I'm not gonna give it all away, but it's definitely a great article to read. It really shows how they kind of, overnight basically changed their business and really, increased their profit. So it's again, a great article. And just coming back to the portal, what we have done on this homepage is we've also made sure that we have the user guide. So again, when you're new to the portal, we're going to go through it, but I just want to quickly show, if we click on this link, it will actually open up our separate site where we have the dealer support site, and one of the pages on there is the actual user guide. So we're not going to go into detail because today we're actually walking through, but what's great is it actually has a breakdown of every section on the portal. And then what we're also working on is we have FAQs here as well. So I'm just going to scroll down here, just waiting for it to catch up. So as you can see, everything is broken down. And then we actually also have FAQs, because a lot of times we all think in questions. Well, how do I do this? Or what if I do that? Does this work? So I've really kind of broken this down, and this is constantly being built on. Like, just to let you know, just going back to the portal, these articles are actually published by our content writer. So what we've done here on this homepage is not only provide you the user guide, moving forward from the portal, we actually have a dedicated dealer support site. So as you can see here, so we have these quick links, which me and Brett will be updating, every month when we feel that there's interesting topics there to post. But we also have these dedicated buttons that will actually bring you to specific pieces of our site. So I just want to quickly cover that because I think it's just very important to see the tools that are out there to really help you succeed. So this is the dealer support site, which again is designed for installers. This is not a consumer site, this is a dealer support site. So what we have covered here is the most kind of popular topics. Again, you can see the portal, the release notes, different comparisons. There's a great article here on network security. If you're doing a network that is highly secured, it really breaks that down, kind of what you can give to the IT guy and asking him to make sure that, our hub can communicate to the outside world. Again, this is not something you would be using for most installs, but in those really high secure networks, this is a great article. Very quickly too, we have a chat bot. So again, there is a search. So very quickly, there is a search on the site, but also, as you can see here, you can search for it, or you can just ask the chat bot. So we'll go through some of these features, but just as an example, maybe I forgot how to change some of the advanced power features, because we actually do have advanced power features that sometimes I see installers are struggling with finding them, or when you look on a form, they just think they don't exist, which they do. So what I'm going to do is in the chat bot, I'm just going to type in change power, see how smart she is. And again, we're constantly updating the chat bot as well. So as you can see, she came back with changing the order of how devices are being powered on. So you might want to change that order, or maybe it's more power settings. So let's see what happens here. So, and as you can see, this is a different article. So if you click on that, it actually will bring you, right back to that article. I'm just going to move this here. There we go. And it will actually open that article right there. I'm just waiting for the site to catch up. So again, these are great self tools that will help you a lot getting all the questions you need. Again, like as Brett mentioned, we make ourselves available, but I also want to go back to the dealer portal for other support. And again, we're not going to go from top to bottom. I'm actually going to jump down. So since we're covering kind of support, there is a tab here, Contact Us. So if we open that, as you can see, this is our dedicated dealer support line. And these are agents that are trained to handle dealer-specific calls. So not just consumer calls, they actually have to handle dealer calls. And anything that doesn't get resolved will get escalated and reviewed by Brett and myself, which gives us opportunity to train them or to see if we need to maybe improve something in our system. So again, they're open 7 days a week, very convenient, the numbers right there. There's also an email function that you can use. Maybe you just want to give some feedback or a specific device. From time to time, there's these kind of devices that may not be in our database when it's like an LED strip that's from an unknown brand. We can usually promote that within 2 to 4 days by sending just a simple email to our data team. So again, this is just a very convenient way of having access to support.
And so, yeah, just to jump on that real quick, you guys. So if I'm a dealer in the field, and every day we're talking with dealers, the fastest way, we're in the field, we need to get things done. I always tell dealers a couple things. One, when I get that call from somebody who says, I've been working on this for like 2 hours and they're super frustrated because they can't figure it out, there's nothing realistically that you should be spending 2 hours on a Harmony remote. Like, you really should be able to program pretty much anything in about 30 minutes. So I always tell people, if it's 15, 20 minutes, that's not to say that things can't happen, right? Or a network issue or things like that. Things absolutely happen. But if you're stuck on something for 15, 20 minutes, don't just keep going down that same path or thinking that you're all on your own, which is oftentimes, I think, what we tend to do, is that we just got to dig in and figure it out. hit the contact us button. Like we make that number super easy to find for a reason. We put it on the backs of our business cards. So every time somebody has our card, like we want people to call it because we want to make sure that you guys are serviced.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's a direct dealer line. It's not the consumer line. It bumps you to a tier 2 guy. They typically have 5 to 8 years experience. So again, they should be able to answer your questions. And then again, like Pike said, if they can't answer the questions, maybe they're a little more CI relevant, and we're talking about racks and larger systems and big distribution systems. They are more prone to Harmony questions. They know literally it gets bumped to Pike or I, and like I said, we hop on the phone immediately. So like I said, just really think about that. But definitely, if you're spending more than 20 minutes, don't get frustrated. The whole beauty of the system is in its efficiency. And if something happens, it's usually something that we can probably get fixed for you guys.
Yeah.
Cool.
So wrapping up the homepage, another great option is the button that we have is the compatibility tool. So you may want to explore to see if you can actually access the devices in our database. So if you click the compatibility tool, it goes to a site where you can actually look up the model number. So as you can see here, you can go ahead and type in Sony, and I'm gonna deliberately, so it already found the manufacturer. Let me actually do XBR X900C. So I'm actually making a bit of a typo in the model number. We'll do XBR. And so what our database will search, and it will find the most relevant. Of course, as installers, you guys know your model numbers, but again, if you make a small typo, most likely we figure it out anyway. So you can see this model is in our database, as you can see. So it's a great tool for looking things up to show that if it's compatible or not, or if it's in our database. Again, that being said, we have over 275,000 devices in our database. Another known fact is that we actually have a dedicated database team, which we have, I think right now we've got about 10 full-time database analysts. So 5 days a week, they're only working on our device data, which again, anyone can make a great shiny remote, that's beautiful, but it needs to work. And what makes it work is having perfect data, and that's what we always strive for. So again, it's just another great way of making sure that everything is in the supported. Again, if it's not in our database, as you can say, we have support. We can definitely get that added in to the 4 business days. If it's very urgent, a lot of times we can escalate and get it done in 24 hours. So now moving on. So again, so this is the homepage. One of the core features, as you may call it, is of course to also manage your clients. So moving on to the clients page, this is where you go when you set up a brand new client, when you want to maybe add a client that you've serviced in the past before you had a dealer account, or maybe it's a client that you're taking over from a previous installer and that client already has a Harmony account. So as you can see, this is the overview. You can see these are all my clients. I can search for them. I can see if I have, you can search by Blake, so last name, or maybe if there is a Smith, there is no Smith. But as you can see, it's very easy to search for your clients here by first or last name. You can also search by email address. So let's see here. So now again, it surfaces by the email. So again, a very easy, convenient way to view your clients. So we're not going to go through a full setup, but I just want to kind of show you basically how to add a new client. Now, what you see here right now, because of the webinar, we are showcasing this on a desktop computer. We do recommend for setting up Harmony remotes. We are compatible with Windows and Mac, but we've really optimized the programming, especially for smart home devices on our mobile app. So as you can see, all the trainings that we create, we also capture on this iPad mini because we highly recommend really using a tablet. If you are okay with a phone, you can also use your phone, of course, for setting up the product. So when you add a new remote, again, it's no different than on the laptop. On the tablet, you would go to pro.myharmony.com, and when you log in, you select clients, and then when you click on add new client, what will happen is the mobile app will automatically launch. So if I click add new client here, of course, it's gonna launch a desktop client on here, so as you can see it's launching it here. Again, we're not going to go into that for this demo. We're going to go back to the portal. Again, this flow is fully covered on going quickly back to our homepage. The walkthrough is covered under the user guide, but most importantly, we'll soon have an actual training course that really walks you through that process. But it's very simple. So what happens is when you add that new client, you create an email, and just very important, you want to make sure that you use the email for the client. It's the same thing when you're setting up a Sonos or Nest. You want to associate the product with the client's email. It makes things easier for warranty. An email needs to be legit, with security and then all these security threats. It's make sure that it needs to be a legit email, because to do a password reset, an email is required that the client can then actually open up. So that's just something we want to make sure that the remote is associated with the client's email. Now, the nice thing is when you set up that new client, you don't have to create a password. What happens is we create the account, and you basically have access to that account, and it will actually appear right here under your clients list after you set up the remote. And then the client gets a welcome email from us with your company name and contact info, and then there's an option there for them to create their own password. Now, the account on your end will always be accessible on your end. However, there is a small exception, of course, to that rule, because we have to, of course, protect your security and your clients as well. So if the client has a door lock or shades, what will happen is you have access to that account for basically 2 business days, 48 hours. So when you're on the job, you can manage, program, modify it. And then if you revisit that client, the option there is you basically go ahead and click on the account. And what will happen is, let's click on this account here for a second so we can view the account. And then there's an option to request access. So when you click on edit, in this case, we're going to click here.
That little arrow on top.
Perfect. What will happen here, if now that I click on edit remote, it's going to automatically basically launch the Harmony software. But in the scenario where the customer has a door lock or a shade, what will happen is there is an option to basically request access. And then basically the customer, your client, gets an email where they just click approve, and then it automatically gives you 48 hours of access again. And again, this is something we have to just implement for door locks and shades. So kind of this is the way you access your clients. Again, this customer does not have a door lock or a shade. So as you can see, I have access to them right there. As you can see, this is an overview. Because again, you can set up multiple remotes for each room. You can, as you can see, the rooms are named here: home theater, guest room. We have an overview, of the firmware version, the last time that they've done a sync. There is also an option to add notes as a big dog. So, in this case, if another installer goes through the job, they're ready for that big dog, so they can be a little bit cautious or bring them a snack.
So real quick, let's talk a little bit about the existing Pro Portal and the basics of how dealers have been programming Harmony, right? I get tons of dealers that we talk to all the time. We talk about the dealer portal. They're like, didn't know that existed, but I've been programming Harmonies for 10 years, right? So what do? Typically, we get a lot of dealers that are using their business email, right? And they use their business email because they don't want to have to bother the client with email passwords, and the client forgets it and all those we get it. And if you come back from the industry as long, and we didn't used to have to do that, right? All the files were on our laptops. We just put them in. It wasn't a big deal. But we do live in a different world now. And so as we came out with the initial dealer portal, so if you've used the initial one, some of the feedback was we required passwords, approvals on every time somebody wanted to edit the remote. And that became a headache, so people would leave their remotes outside of the dealer portal. So what we did, and we worked really hard for it, we went to legal, we went to all the people and said, hey, what can we do? So now, like Pike said, the idea is that on any remote that does not have a door lock or a window shade, you can basically edit the remote and you don't need a password. It doesn't notify your client's not required to approve anything or do anything else. Client calls you up, they say, hey, can you add a favorite channel? Can you add a new activity? Whatever it is that they want to do, you can basically log in from anywhere in the world, make those changes, push the sync directly to the client without having to roll a truck, and no email approvals. Now, again, where that is not true and where it's still super, super easy, if you do have a door lock connected into the system, or window shades, there's a level of protection and privacy with that, right? You know, as much as 99% of the world's going to be fine, we know that somebody's in there. Clients don't ultimately want somebody that actually has access and can just unlock their front door. That's a liability for you guys as a business, and privacy issue for your clients. So in that situation, again, client never needs to remember the password. All they have to do is when it's first set up, when we set up the account, you put in the client's email. You're able to program, so they don't even need to do anything at the time. And then like Pike said, once it's done programming, it's going to go ahead and just send them an email and say, hey, congratulations, so-and-so, your dealer name, set up your account. Welcome to Harmony. Click here to set up a password. They set up the password, and then that's all they're going to need it for. So like I said, you'll never need the password. You'll never need to ask them for the password. Your dealer portal account here automatically takes care of that. Then let's say 6 months from now, they need to make a change and they had a door lock in there. When you go in and edit remote, it'll say request access. If you did have the password, then you can enter that in. But otherwise, you hit request access, an email pops right up to the client's phone. All they do is hit accept. Again, no need to remember passwords. Hit accept. Now you have access for 48 hours. So it really is, you guys. It's simple for the 95% that aren't putting that door lock or window shade in a lot of these homes, and for the ones that are, it's still as simple as possible while protecting everybody on all sides. So like I said, we're really happy with that, and based on a ton of dealer feedback. And then, like I said, you guys, from that same perspective, the importance of putting in the client's email. We get this all the time. Dealer calls up and he's like, I've hit my 15 account limit. And it's like, well, that's because you can put 15 remotes into one client's home.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is they're using their business. So again, make sure that you're doing it the right way. Use your client's email, and you won't have any problems with it. And if you put it in the dealer portal, you'll never have an issue getting into the account. So
I'm just going to close this one here. So you might also be importing an existing client. You might have already set up a Harmony account, or you're taking over a Harmony account. So when you click on import client, you basically put in the email. I'll just do a test. I think this is already in there, but basically what happens is you put in the email and you click on import client. Let me actually try to find an email from my memory that is not in this demo account.
So you guys, there's questions on this. So if we're importing, there's times where people, maybe they don't have a dealer portal account yet. They have some accounts that they've been setting up. Like I said, this is a great way to do them one by one. Otherwise, on that main page, on the right-hand side, when you're in import client, you can download a CSV file. So if you have a whole bunch, I'll literally get dealers that are like, I've got like 200 Harmony remotes. Can I get these in there? Yeah, and we can help you out with that. So try to make it a little bit easier for you. If you download the CSV file, basically you can just put in, we need the dealer name and the dealer email. You send that back to us, and then our back-end team will help to get those all imported into your account. So again, different ways that we can speed those up, especially for all of you guys that have been installing Harmony for a while but want to be able to gain access to this so that they can make those changes and push those syncs without having to roll a truck.
So what we'll do, apologies, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to actually temporarily remove a client and import it again. And that brings me to the point, like if you remove a client, so maybe you have a test account that you just want to add and then remove, you can definitely remove the account. And again, it doesn't remove it from our Harmony database, right? It's just removing it from your actual portal account. Now, let's go ahead and now add a client. In this case, it's the one that I just removed. So we import the client, and as you can see here, this is where you can send a request. Again, between you and your client, maybe this was just an AV only setup with no door locks, and the client decided to give you the password, or somehow you had it prior. There is an alternative way of adding it through a password as well. Again, we don't encourage that, but that's between you and your clients. So, but again, the request access is just as easy. So as you can see, the client has now been added. So we're gonna speed it up a little bit. There's just still a lot to cover, and also want to keep it open for questions. But very important, again, we're going to cover a lot more on clients and so forth when we go through the training that we're going to publish soon. I do very well want to actually quickly demo the e-learning portal, because this again is a great benefit. So the e-learning that we provide, it will be linked to your dealer account. So you start creating your portal. As you can see, they're just seamlessly linked. As you can see, here are the different courses, and this is the course I highly recommend anyone that's new to Harmony to really set that up. So this is a new remote setup. So when you enroll in the course, it's going to load, and again, this can be loaded on a tablet or on a desktop. It's again, like I said, it actually loads the course. It's like as if you're doing a real setup. You can barely tell the difference because again, we're actually capturing the setup as we go through this. So as you can see, now it's just loading the course. It's probably going to load where I left it off. This course, again, the first version of the portal, as you can see, we've really updated the UX, as you can tell. Let's see if we can fast forward here quickly. There we go. So it's going to load here. There we go. Get there. Let's try to resume it. Sorry, so for time, it takes a little bit to load. So as you can see here, it's actually going to walk you through in this case of, adding a client and so forth. So there's it's a real actual walkthrough of setting up a new client. So again, I really recommend taking this course. Again, to keep the time in mind, we're going to just close this for the time being and just go back to the portal. So the courses, again, will help you a lot with a lot of new courses to come. So the other section that I'm going to briefly just go over is the admin page. You do see tools and firmware. And again, it's not a requirement. It's just in case you want to save a little bit of time, you can preload the firmware on the remote before you put in a config. So it just can save you a lot of time during the installs. It does require a desktop computer because it preloads the firmware through a USB connection. Again, not mandatory. It's just if you go to a job and you're going to do 5 in a household. Again, we all know firmware installs do, no matter on what device. I know on TVs it takes 30 minutes. With us, it takes about 3 to 5 minutes. Again, it could save you time. Time is money. So again, a handy tool. Now moving forward to the admin tab. This is an important one to cover. Depending on your business, it actually allows you to create additional users. So when you request the account, if you have multiple employees, don't send them to the site and have them all request a dealer account. It's really the manager or the office admin that should request it. Anyone who requests a dealer account becomes a regional admin, as you can see here. And a regional admin can actually invite additional installers or store admins. So the regional admin has full access. They can add employees, they can remove employees, or for instance, you may have an installer that's a contractor and perhaps he may not be working during wintertime. So you can actually, in this case, this installer was suspended temporarily, so I can now go ahead and reactivate him.
So you guys, that can be a big one, because we know a lot of guys as they're growing, are putting on a 1099 guy because I need somebody for a couple jobs. I don't have them on all the time. They want them to have access to their clients while they're installing, but maybe don't want them to have permanent access to it. So rather than having to remove that person and then re-add them in again and all that kind of stuff, you can basically just click on them, click on the employee, click on suspend, and then they no longer have access to the account. So again, it's a great way, whether it's a large company or a small company, to be able to manage some of those contractor employees that you put into the system here. So and that way control who has access to your client list. So great way to be able to do that.
And again, I suggest reading the portal user guide. The nice thing is when we start publishing our training for the portal, we're gonna break it down in the main training and then also how to manage employees, and then also go into stores and regions. Again, if you don't have multiple stores, those tabs really do not apply. Same thing with regions. Again, we'll be covering that in more training. Biggest difference, regional admin has, of course, access to admin. Store admin has access to the assigned stores. So in most use cases, if you don't have multiple stores, you either have regional admins and installer. So the installer, when they log in, they don't see the admin field. So they have access to clients and so forth. But they can't delete or add employees. So again, that's kind of the breakdown of the portal.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answered a lot of your questions. We can definitely, like me and Brett, will be staying on after to take on additional questions. But now we'll move it a little bit forward.
Yeah, we'll talk about some demos and some other cool programs and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but just to wrap up on this, these were definitely a lot of the great features that we've gotten as input from dealers like you guys. Previously there was one login and one password for the entire company, which was great for a one-man team, but not for a 5-man team or a 10-man team. So we believe that this really opens it up, to be able to help and protect you guys as dealers and make it easier so that everybody has their own logins. So yeah, hope you guys like it. Definitely take a look, and if you have any questions on it, by all means, let us know. So what do we want to take a look at?
What I figured, we can cover a little bit of advanced programming, but we were talking yesterday. I think it makes more sense to first kind of demo some of these advanced activities, and then we can kind of actually show how these activities kind of have been created. So as you can see, this is our experience room here. I'm going to actually move the camera a little bit so we can actually see the TV as well, and actually probably zoom out so we can also still see the blinds. There we go. So reverse, of course, we're mirrored. I think we're good there.
Cool.
So that's our full entertainment system there. Just a little bit, about this room. So yeah, we have a Sony Smart TV running Android. We have a Roku connected, a Fire TV, an Apple TV, Direct TV, Dish Hopper, Philips Hue, Lutron Rod 2 Select,
Xbox.
What else do we have? We have, of course, our circle cameras. Yeah, we're constantly adding and building more to that, so we can really, demo all these pieces. So again, the Harmony is connected here. So this is the Harmony that we have connected. It's actually inside the cabinet again, because the Harmony is controlling everything through RF. So it communicates to the hub through RF. So I don't have to point it or anything. So it can very easily, start an activity. So, I can start Apple TV. I'm on Roku now. If I hit Apple TV, then of course, now I'm controlling the Apple TV, the TV switches and so forth. So you can see all those activities can be done right here from the remote without pointing. And then if we take a look here, of course, the app that we have, which is free as well, which also covers the activities here. So now if I want to switch back to Roku, you can see they both communicate to each other. So you can see the remote as well is now switching. So, and I know we have a very crowded table here because I have lots to show. We also, just moving this out of the way, clearly I need a bigger desk. I have 3 desks over there with stuff, so this is kind of downsizing for me here. So what we also want to show is, how are people using voice and kind of how you can kind of tie this in, because what's great about Harmony is you can control it in different ways. Like when I'm, enjoying a movie and just want to veg out, I probably don't want to talk. I probably don't want to be on my phone. I just want my remote. I don't even have to look at it, the muscle memory. I can just control it. I still love using the remote, and it's it's really the backbone of the system. But if I'm upstairs, my kids are watching TV, they should be doing homework, I can just turn it off, right? With my phone, very convenient. Or if I'm doing the dishes, don't want to get my remote dirty, maybe I just want to use my voice. So that's why we just want to show you kind of these differences that we have. So Alexa, turn on TV.
Okay.
So if you can see here, I didn't press any buttons. So now she's gonna like turn on the TV. It's automatically switching to the input, and then the Harmony changes the state. You can see there as well, there's a little bit of glare. So you can see I have my favorites on here on the tablet. I have them on the remote, or I have them in here. Alexa, turn on Discovery.
Okay.
And now I'm watching Discovery Channel. Now, the other cool thing is when you're setting up voice, you can also give it a friendly name. So instead of having to say ESPN, I can say, Alexa, turn on sports.
Sweet, spicy, boneless. Get as much as you want for one low price. It's way faster.
Alexa, turn on sports.
Golden Corral.
Okay.
So as you can see now, I associated sports with ESPN. So these are great features. And of course, this works with Alexa. I can also say, hey, Google. My apologies. Gotta make sure I unmute her.
The mic's back on.
The mic's back on, all right. Hey, Google, turn on Roku.
Sure, turning on the Roku.
And what's cool, it's very bright. I'm gonna see if I can change the angle. This is kind of cool. While we zoom in. Hey, Google, turn on TV.
You got it, turning on the TV.
Yeah, it's very beautiful white, but not very friendly for cameras. What is cool here, and we'll have to play, you know what? Let me just change the brightness on this. Oh, we can see it. Look, we can see it. There we go. So what's cool here, what Google did is they have our API, sorry about the glare there. Our API actually also has, as Brett mentioned, pause and play. So Google's actually showing that on the screen. So just going back to that control, so I'm just gonna go back to media control. Sorry, I'm taking the screen away from you guys. So what's cool here is there's a channels option here. So you see channels there. So, sorry, I'm doing this reverse. I can actually also just hit the channel right in there. So what's great on here, and I know you don't see the TV now, but we can zoom out. And it's back on another channel. So again, this is another great way of getting the most out of your entertainment. It's just another product you can sell to your customer, and another way to delight your customer. You can go back to existing customers. Hey, I got this extra nice add-on to really make things great when you're cooking or doing the dishes. Just use your voice.
Yeah. Well,
sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think that it's becoming a bigger and bigger piece, you guys. As we were doing webinars last year, we'll usually set up polls on ours so we can see, how many people are using voice, and it would range between like 10 and 20%. And then as we got later on, in last year, we'd see it creeping up to 40, 50%. And so, a lot of guys are shying away from it because they're like, hey, I don't make money selling a dot. And we get that. But when you start doing the level of customization that we're talking about, it's easy to do, but it's labor time. But at the end of the day, you end up with a bunch of different ways that client, so just like in a larger automation system, they can walk around the house, and like I said, family room, use a remote. Walking around the house, use a tablet or a phone. Talk to voice, turn the lights on and off, and all these other pieces. And Pike's got a few actually really cool demos.
Yeah,
like
so I just was reading the news this morning, and it is right now, and we in California can't really relate to anyone in the East Coast right now, and we just don't know really what cold weather is. Well, I used to when I lived in Canada, but I've quickly forgotten. right now in Chicago, it is colder than on Mount Everest. That is insane. So going back to that, we've created a very nice routine for that. Hey, Google, make me a fire.
Okay, turning the fireplace on.
So basically, I created a routine. I called it, gave it a bunch of nicknames, which again, I will eventually going to create a training on that. This is starting the Apple TV, but not just that. It's actually doing a whole advanced macro where I wanted to actually then open up the fireplace app. And then from there, I can actually select my fireplace. So you can see, you can even take it a little step further where you can actually have it send okay, or select the fireplace that you want. So help you guys warm up a little bit. And, these routines, talking about that can be great with voice as well. So, if I, just gonna turn off the TV here for a second, and we're gonna show another routine here. So, hey, Google, dim the lights to 20%. And we're gonna actually zoom out a little bit.
You got it. Setting 6 lights brightness to 20%.
So make sure, trying to get the camera, I think I'm blocking the,
You may be all the way out.
oh, yeah, I need to be, just so we got the blinds. I think we're okay. This is the max. So what I've created is with Google, and same thing with Alexa, you can create these routines, and it can be a combination. It can be Harmony doing an activity, and then Google can do a whole bunch of other things. So a great one is, of course, waking up in the morning. So we're going to just showcase a kind of a good morning activity. So I'm going to actually dim the lights a little bit more. Hey, Google, set all the lights to 10%. There we go. That's a little bit better.
You got it.
So
Setting 20
pretend
lights brightness
it's
to
morning.
10%.
Hey, Google, good morning.
Hi, Pike. The time is 8:57 a.m. Right now in Newark, it's 54 and cloudy. Today, it'll be partly cloudy with a forecasted high of 66 and a low of 52. Have a good one.
So as you can see, basically, you can create these routines by Google, but what you could also do is actually, you could tie in a Harmony activity for that it will actually then enable the good morning activity as well. So this actually can be done and tied into the default. So what you just saw was basically a default Google activity, but as we can see, we actually have a Harmony activity called Good Morning as well, which you could then actually tie into the default activity, which you could see, then it would also then open the blinds and turn on the TV, and you can have it start to any of your favorite channels, or in this case, I want the TV to start on the weather channel. So it just shows that the default routine, Good Morning, that you saw can actually be tied into Harmony by linking that. And this is something that we're looking at creating courses as well for this, because it's again, a great way of really tying our system into voice as well. So I think lastly, we talked about Sonos. There is, a great activity, which I think I tied into Google. Hey, Google, turn on dinner time.
Sure, turning the dinner time on.
So this one was tied into a Google routine, like I said, which you can do with Good Morning as well. So with dinner time, the Harmony's, setting up the blinds kind of halfway, turns off the TV to get the kids to the dining table behind us. It's then playing a little bit of dinner jazz in the background, kind of setting a nice ambiance. So again, it's a great way of kind of, bringing the family together, or maybe if you have a hot date to impress her. Again, another great advanced activity that you can create. And again, you can use the voice to turn it off, or you can just grab the Harmony, hit the off button. Again, however you want to control it, you have the ability then turn off dinner time. The lights can be then set back to bright and so forth. So these are some advanced activities. I know we're kind of crunching time. we're more than happy to kind of show how we've made those, but we want to make sure that we also open it up for questions, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I think the main thing, you guys, we're seeing a lot of demo pieces, and Mike did a great job of explaining a lot of what's happening on here. But again, what's great is with Harmony, so you can see, you didn't need a much larger big control system. We ran a good morning program. You could run a good night program, whatever you want. You can see all the different lights are changing in. We have Philips Hue lights in here. We have Lutron Ratu Select lights in here. We have Hunter Douglas shades, and we have Lutron Serena shades. And that's the beauty, is that we're actually combining all those systems. We're agnostic to all the different pieces. So we can run everything together. We could be dimming a Lutron light at the same time that we're turning on a Philips Hue and changing it to a different color, and dropping both sets of shades. So, again, it's really easy with Sonos. We have 3 of them in here right now. When you run an activity, you can group them. So again, something that you can't do in voice directly between Sonos and Alexa, you can actually do with Harmony. So when you basically scan in your Sonos devices, it's super easy. It pops up as Sonos. What you would do in these situations is you would set up your Sonos devices first. Put them all in, name them, get them all ready to go. If you had any lighting control, you would then put in your Lutron lights. You'd get all those programs, especially if you have maybe a Pico, or something tied into Sonos. That's why you want to do Sonos first. Then after that, perhaps it's a Nest thermostat. Put that into the system. That goes in. Then you program your Harmony. And then that way it's going to pull in all those devices really easy. It's going to pull in the names, all the names of the lights. It's going to pull in all the names of the Sonos speakers. In my house, like I said, I have 40 Lutron Ratu Select lights running on Oversea. And then I have 12 Sonos devices, a Nest thermostat, and then a room full of different streaming devices and sources. So as you're pulling these systems together, you guys, and then once you program Harmony and you've created your favorite channels and everything else, now you're going to program. We use both, but not everybody does. Either Alexa or Google, whatever your favorite is, and then run it from there.
Yeah, and then speaking of that, very quickly, this is the share screen? Sorry.
Yeah, share screen is the little, looks like
This
the monitor.
guy. So I know we're really running out of time. Very quickly, request us also to talk. We're also, again, we have an API that, again, works with Google and Alexa, but we also work with different software services such as IFT. And to those who are not familiar with IFT, if this then that, it allows to tie in APIs with other APIs, because we will never have a direct integration with Uber, but IFT does. And what's great about that is that you can tie these experiences together. So if you want to tie it to a washing machine from Samsung or whatever crazy thing you can come up with, you can build that. But there's also real great live use cases. So ones I use all the time, as you can look here, these are some examples. So Live 360, again, has great geofencing. There's also the native geofencing. I've tested a lot of different geofencing. I can't recommend any. All I can say is that I've had the best success with Live 360 on a much shorter range. And what I like about this geofencing is similar to, for instance, SmartThings. It understands the condition. So it's only gonna do certain actions based on if everyone is out of the home. So for instance, I have it set to turn off the TV, the Harmony activity when I leave the house, but you can set it only do it if I'm the last person leaving. So if my watch is still watching TV, I leave the house, it doesn't turn off. So these are, again, are great use cases and examples. A cool one here I want to quickly show is, I live in San Francisco, don't own a car, I use Uber a lot. Sometimes you get distracted while you're waiting for an Uber. So what's cool here, there's an actual, if you search for Uber space Harmony, we just published another IFT recipe where if the Uber arrives close to your home, it actually powers off the Harmony activity. Now, my video editing skills, it's still a hobby. I quickly slapped this together, and we're gonna work on a better version of this, but I just want to show you here. So this is my TV at home. I got my Harmony Pro and my Uber app, Just to give you a quick demo here, I don't think we need audio for the feedback loop, but in this case, you might be watching the news or the weather, and while I'm ordering my Uber here, as you can see, just before the Uber arrives, so basically like a minute before, you can see it's 2 blocks away, I get the notification on my phone, but maybe my phone's somewhere else. It actually is automatically powering off my activity as well. So again, this is just another cool use case that in this case I actually use all the time, and it allows me not to deal with anything. I can just walk out the house. Again, this is all how we can really benefit from automating your client's life, and this is just another great use case. So again, this is something we'll probably be covering too in trainings and documentation. But yeah, IFT is a great one. We're also on Unomi and Stringify, so just another examples of our API.
Can we go to back to the deck and then find the last page where we have all the dealer information? That slide that we usually. So you just run through this. So you guys know, like I said, we're running out of time. We want to show a slide. Sometimes people like to take the screenshot of it with all of our dealer information. So like I said, we'll definitely throw that up there for you guys. One thing on there, I'll actually show you real quick too. Yeah, you're too far. You're just past it. So one thing that we're very proud of in there, you guys in a previous slide. So Harmony remotes, when professionally programmed, so by guys like you, as everybody's doing them, has less than 0.5% RMA rate. These things don't come back, you guys. I talk to dealers all the time, and they're always saying it's ease of programming and it's that bulletproof reliability for it. That always makes them like Harmony. And what we're trying to show here is that you can actually do a fair amount of automation, and I think that's what separates that general question that people ask of, can a consumer just program a Harmony remote or a Sonos? Like, why would I be selling stuff that consumers can do? And the reality is they don't know how to put these bigger systems together. When you start talking about could they program a Harmony remote? Maybe. Could they put a Sonos together? Sure, why not? But when you start talking about Nest thermostats and lighting control and an audio distribution and control and trying to put in shades and creating activities that really benefit the consumer, I think that's where a lot of this stuff, comes into play, and that's where they rely on the professional's expertise, and being able to show them really cool things like IFT, figuring out what does your client do. Maybe they use Uber a lot. Then this is a great thing. If they don't, then let's go find something else. That
that geofencing is great, right? That's something any household, like the last member leaves, it's handy. People with kids, they're carrying 5 million things. They can just walk out of the house, and you can tie that into Harmony. And with IFT, you can even add, different services and make it all kind of add that together. So great examples of how you can really add additional services for your customer.
Yep. If anybody wants to grab a picture of that slide, grab it now, because we're gonna drop it off here in just a second.
Yeah.
So I think that's about it. I mean, we'll talk all day about stuff. I didn't see any messages popping up. Rick, are there questions in there that we can answer?
Oh, I've got a ton of them. So the questions tab.
We didn't see any chat things popping up. Okay.
It doesn't go to chat. It goes into questions tab, which is on my view. So yeah, we have a ton. So one of the first things that kept popping up is we wanted to do more of a deep dive here, but I guess we still need to do a little bit of cursory review. Can you review the differences between the Elite platform and the Pro platform, both in the hardware and also in the multi-zone capabilities?
Sure, absolutely. So real quick, major difference is Elite is sold obviously at retail. It's also sold through distribution. The Pro SKUs are only sold through distribution. It is a very clean SKU. I personally go through it every week to make sure that it's not on eBay and Amazon and all those kinds of things. We do that to protect the channel, to protect the dealers. Feature-wise, the Pro SKU features a 2-year warranty versus the Elite's 1-year warranty. It also provides 8 precision, what we call precision IR emitters. So basically IR bugs. So on the Elite model Companion, it comes with just a mini blaster, right? And that's generally what people want. Place it in the general area, and our blasters are very good, and they tend to hit all the areas. But in our channel, sometimes you're going on racks or bigger builds. You want to put the IR emitter. We've got a great rubber boot that goes on top of it. And so those are in there. So there's 2 of those coming off of the 2 IR assignable ports off the back. And then the Pro Remote includes the ability to have better control, real control over the second and third zone of an AVR. So there are some workarounds that we've frankly done and helped dealers with, in the past, but they are hacks.
Yeah. With the multi-zone, it's similar to what you expect from Sonos or Helios, where when you add that secondary zone, the way we've integrated it is we want to make sure that the strongest use case, which we support right now with multi-zone, is the customer just wants to have the same audio from the TV in the kitchen or the patio. They might have a game on with some guests, and they don't want to understand multi-zone. They don't even know what that is. All they know is those are my patio speakers. And that's what's great with Sonos and Helios, right? So when you add the secondary zone, we actually allow you to label it based on the room. And what's great about it, you don't have to create 4 different types of activities like zone 1 and zone 2. Actually, the client on the fly can actually, while they're watching TV, again, the remote has a touch screen, which is a carousel, just like your phone. Just go to the next set of screens, and on one of the screens in the activity, they can just enable or disable the patio or the kitchen. That being said, if they have an entertainment activity like dinner time, maybe they want zone 1 and zone 2, you can also then create a separate activity where we enable both zones and set them to the same source. So, and that's something that is not on the Elite.
Now, the last piece that we put in there, you guys, is a lot of guys have been selling Elite because they've been selling Elite for years. And so it's just natural. They haven't even really paid attention to the Pro. The one thing that we say, and this is big for us, but also big for you guys, is building the Pro SKU was our representation of saying this channel wants and deserves to have a SKU that's not available at retail.
Yeah.
Now, to get this first one out, somewhat similar, like I said, we've discussed a few of the issues or the differences, and only a $50 price delta.
Yeah.
But purchasing Pro, selling Pro into the channel, not only gives you a Logitech sell, which we appreciate, but also shows that you guys are looking for your own SKU, and that
it supports the Pro channel.
Yeah.
It supports this group basically.
And that's
growth.
and that's what's allowed us to start working on new products that are discreetly made for this channel. And so that's where we really get excited.
Yeah,
Pro is
exactly.
kind of that first entry into it, protecting the channel and doing things like that.
Exactly.
But it's allowing us to grow and build new SKUs that are dedicated to the channel that do even more things that you guys want.
Yeah. Also the Pro, like we're sorry.
No, I was just saying they probably have some questions.
Yeah, the Pro, very quickly, we also just provide better support and more lenient support. Me and Brett have better control over the Pro. That's our channel, that's our product. So, I mean, sometimes if we need to have a certain scenario where, maybe a dog got to it, this is not something we would really cover under warranty for most of our products. With Pro, because we do have that flexibility a little bit, you just get a better service on even the replacement of a product if need be. So, yeah.
What else we got, Rick?
All right, thanks. Really quickly, the other question that came up is the emitters. Does the hub that comes with the Pro, does it still use the 2.5 millimeter ports, or does it have the 3.5 millimeter ports like the industry standard?
No, so as it stands right now, when that product came out, it was still it's still that same hub, so it still has the 2.5 millimeter ports. That's one of the reasons why the Pro has those. You can see them on the screen. The 2 4-head IR emitters. So that gives you the ability to have 8 devices being controlled plus whatever's on IP, which usually takes care of what most things have. I will say, it hasn't been super secret. We've talked about it in a few different spots, but we have a new hub that we are working on. And that hub has 6 3.5 millimeter IR ports on the back. So again, more IR ports because we know people want them, and 3.5 because obviously we recognize it as a standard. Typically, I will say it doesn't come up too much. Most people that are putting in Harmonies, it's that self-sufficient system. So they're using the stuff that's in the box. And so we've just been on 2.5s for years, but not on any Pro products moving forward.
Okay, thank you. And for the person that I responded to privately, I apologize for the misspeak. Jeff, it's going to be one of the new products. So stay tuned. Obviously, we don't want to talk too much about the new stuff. We want to talk about what's available today.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
But yes, stay tuned, both to us and to what Brett and Pike are going to be I'll share the email so everyone is going to have the chance to follow up. Okay, the next question that came out. All right, so we've got control from devices using the app that comes with any of the systems that come with a hub. Is there the ability to control over network, like say browser control, or is it has to be on an app?
It has to be on an app. There's no control. Our API, it's an API that we share with specific partners. There is no web interface at this point. That being said, we are constantly looking at feedback. We do surveys. There is, just as a little product teaser, we were looking at finding better ways for installers to even voice, their feedback to us on the portal. So stay tuned for that. But it's not something we have implemented at this point. I do feel free to share our contact info. Whoever asked that question, I would love to actually speak with them on the use case. Perhaps we have an alternative. And it's always great to hear these, use cases that we can either document or maybe we can provide another alternative for that. So.
Okay, perfect. All right. Michael's asking if a customer bought a product from Amazon or from big box retail, and then he's going to expand the system. Can he transfer an existing remote from another dealer?
Yeah. So this is
an account that he can see on his dashboard.
Great question. And so this just coming back to the dealer support. Everyone can still see my screen. Yeah. So just very easy. We have an article. So the answer is yes. But if you forget the steps or want to see it again, you can even ask the chat bot, which I'm always testing. We're always improving because we want to make things easier. So let's see, copy account. And this is a feature I have personally signed off on 6 years ago when I was back, talking about my QA days. There is an actual feature that is, and I'm gonna work on the chatbot because it's copy accounts, copy settings. So again, this is where we're always trying to improve the chatbot as well, something we released a couple months ago. But we have this article, and after this webinar, I'm going to go to my content writer and make sure that we can search this better. But this article describes how you can import it. So just very quickly, when you create a Harmony account, we actually ask you this specific question. If you want to copy the settings from a previous remote. And the beauty of this, what is really cool, is there is 3 different use cases how you can copy settings. You can actually copy a setting. You might have a customer that bought a remote in 2005 when I started, a Harmony 659 perhaps. And maybe he still has that TV. I doubt it, but maybe he has modified it and he now wants to upgrade. So when you get a Harmony Pro, you can actually, even though that system is from our legacy system, which has a legacy database, we still tie in both systems to the database. So we can retrieve that configuration by simply putting in the user's credentials. And again, if you have troubles finding the credentials, that sometimes can be a challenge. We've improved that very quickly. The credentials are now stored on the Harmony Pro, but on a 659 it's not. Feel free to call our customer service because we can search by first, last name and such. So that's one use case. The other use case is maybe you're doing a household with 2 guest rooms with the same TV, cable box, and soundbar or whatever. You can copy that same identical configuration to multiple remotes to save you time. That being said, if there's IP devices, when you do the copy, we do re-add the Sony TV, for instance, which we control through IP. But basic IR devices, we just copy over the configuration. Now, you could also have a customer with a current Harmony account, but they want to use a new email. You can then set up a brand new account and still copy over that configuration as well. So again, 3 great ways of being able to do that. So yeah, great question.
Okay, we've got a bunch more here.
Excellent.
All right. Neil is asking about RA2, the easiest and fastest way to integrate RA2.
Sure. So let's just be specific on here. So we integrate with RA2 Select. We do not integrate at the moment with Radio RA2. So just because sometimes that gets a little confused with people in there. So with Raw2 Select, super easy. Basically, you would set up your Lutron lights in your house. Like I said, I have 40 of them in mind. Get them all named, get them all set up. Then when you go into Harmony and you're adding devices, you can basically scan and it will find the Lutron hub. And then it basically, so here we go. So yeah, so you go into your smart, go into the bridge main repeater. In this case, if you hadn't, we already have it synced up. It would take you to the Lutron page where you would put in your username and password, just like you would with Nest, just like you would with Sonos. And then once you do that, we're basically linked into it and it imports all the devices.
You
So
can scan for it, or even this just under the home control just shows you all our integrations, so you can see SmartThings, Honeywell, Ecobee,
yeah, Nest
Nest, and so it's not showing Lutron because I've already added it.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, literally, you guys takes 5 minutes, and then once you have control, so like in my house, I've got 40 lights. I can create groupings, so if I want to group in my family rooms or anything else. And then, you know, one of my favorite things, you guys, and this is something that everybody that's doing lights, Lutron, Hue, LifeX, you know, any with it is these. Let's see if I can zoom.
I got this as well to kind of.
Oh, perfect. That's
so. What Brett's talking about, let him continue.
Yeah, otherwise I have it on my slide deck too.
Oh,
I've actually got to blow on that.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the home control buttons at the bottom though will control lighting, and I use those on a daily basis. What else we got, Rick? I know we got a lot of questions.
Okay, sure. And is there a timeline, or is adding full-blown RA2, not Select, but full-blown RA2, is there a timeline, or is that on the roadmap, or could we discuss that if it is? So we've got a lot of guys who do
Full RA2
systems that are above the capabilities of Select, and then also they use the C-Touch keypads as opposed to, like, RA2 Select has the limitation it has to use Picos. So we have a lot of guys that use it because it has the C-Touch keypads that are that can be custom engraved, and then also obviously the system capacity goes up to 200 devices.
Sure. So I always love to again hear from more of those dealers. You know, for a lot of guys we have, they're doing systems that fit within that 100 device set up for RA2 Select. It is not on a roadmap where I have a date for it. It is something that we're talking about with Lutron. We have a great relationship with them. But just something that we have to integrate. It's a totally different system for integration. So we were easily able to upgrade what we did with Cassetta into RA2 Select, and we do see more and more dealers in that ease of use. When you really look at the use case, it's programming a Harmony 30 minutes, programming a RA2 Select system, again 30-40 minutes. Programming a Sonos system, 30-40 minutes. It's kind of doing those simpler systems that tie together, app-based programming, kind of things like that. Radio Raw 2 definitely steps it up. I grew up on Radio Raw, so it's been a while. But yeah, I would love to get it in personally. My guess is possibly later on this year or the next year, but nothing specifically on the roadmap.
Okay, thank you. We'll definitely put you in touch with some people.
Yeah, please do.
Speak to the need. So AllNet was the original HTD distributor for Lutron. We had we were selling graphic eyes before the original RA.
Yeah.
And I remember when they came to us and they said, would you be interested in selling a lighting system that programs and controls over radio frequency? And Wally said, I don't know what you're talking about. We'll figure it out.
Okay. Absolutely. But yeah, no, I love to hear it because it helps us to prioritize, right? Like
Sure.
We're prioritizing based on what dealers are feeding back to us and what we need. There's times where, as great as the products are, somebody asks, when are you going to tie into, X product? And it's like, I don't know, and probably never. They own a fraction of 1% of the wireless audio distribution market. But Lutron, Radio Raw 2 systems, homework systems, obviously a powerhouse, and Lutron's a great partner. So something we definitely love to hear more feedback from dealers on. Okay, perfect. On that note, you just mentioned music systems. So yep. I've got a slew of questions here about Denon Hios, Yamaha MusicCast, etc. What music systems are supported with multi-zone control? Sure. So multi-zone control for Sonos and Denon Hios are supported. Those are the only two from a wireless music standpoint now. We look at, but I don't have any dates, and we don't, for Yamaha MusicCast. Again, we love, and especially Pike's got great relationships with the Yamaha guys. So, we continue to look at new brands, and again, want to hear that dealer feedback from people. We tended to go with, what are the top two, and build those out properly and build those out deep to give everybody what they need. And obviously that fits a lot of the market, but again, I was on the first MusicCast with the big square rectangular ones. So yeah, we'd love to get them in. We don't have that in there at the moment. But that would probably be, from a wireless audio standpoint, that would probably be the next one that we'd add.
Okay, so Jeff, specifically, you were asking about HEOS. They said it is supported.
Yeah.
To the gentleman who are asking about MusicCast, all we can do is communicate the demand, and so reach out to us and we can kind of compile this and share the information. Okay, the next question we've got here, Samsung TVs released an IP control API about a year ago, including IP control of the frame that has IP control of the specific artwork modes.
Yeah.
So the NU series, the QLED series, and the frame series all have full-blown IP control these days. Is it IP controllable through Harmony?
It is not as of today. It's something that the dev team, we've got a bunch of IP that we've been working on, along with other products and other things that we're trying to get out, and it's just a matter of priority. We still see, we know this channel obviously uses IP more, but we still see so many people that come in using IR, and again, just like we've been saying, it's about feedback. So feedback has been that people still like IR for a lot of those pieces. They're, concerned with TVs dropping off and different pieces that way. So, it's something that we continue to look at right now. Sony TV would be the only TV that we do have a full IP integration with. And that works well. And we have lots of dealers that are using that. Personally, I've got a couple Samsung TVs in my house as well. And so I'd love to get those up on IP, but right now it is IR.
Okay, perfect. All right, so David has some questions. This came up during your Alexa and Google Home demos. He is asking, how is it being programmed? Is it you create the scenes? Oh, sorry. You create the scenes within the Harmony, and then you tie them into Alexa or Google, or what's the process?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, and actually we have articles on both. So if you go on the dealer support side, just even ask the chat bot, Alexa and Google, we have a full article that really shows you that full experience, but let me just briefly talk about it. So any activity, with the exception of an activity that has a door lock in it, because for security reasons, that is not allowed to be controlled through voice by Alexa or Google at this time, until they kind of bake in that PIN code perhaps. But any of the activities you create, all you do is, like on Alexa, you download the Harmony skill, put in your client's email. It shows all the activities. If there are certain activities you don't want to allow to launch by voice, you can uncheck them. We then move on to the next page. So Roku we control, for instance, through IP. So if you had a Roku in the account, you can check off which Roku apps you want to instantly launch, because I didn't demo that, but you could also say turn on Hulu, and we launched the Hulu app on Roku. Favorite channels, same thing. There you can go and give Nickelodeon a nickname, Cartoons, so you can give it friendly names as well. That experience is the same thing with Google as well. You just basically go into Google and you basically link that account. And all the instructions are there. The Alexa, we do have an e-learning course on that as well. I do apologize, some of the screens are a little bit dated because they keep updating their app. We are gonna do a little refresh, but the training, it's not relevant to know how to do it. It's still that same experience. So, and then with that, again, just to recap, you can turn on activities, you can turn them off, you can pause, play, volume, change channels, launch favorites. And then again, the routines, Alexa and Google both support routines, so you can tie them into the routines. You can make a specific Harmony only routine, or like you saw that Good Morning, we could have added the Harmony Good Morning to that routine as well. So, great question.
Okay. All right, so we've got some follow-up questions about IP control. So the first question that pops up was a follow-up on your previous comment about Sony. So is Sony the only video brand currently on IP control?
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so LG, Samsung, et cetera, we would still have to use infrared?
Correct.
Yeah, the team has been working hard on the back end. It's, again, to Brett's point, it's all about priority. Again, not as important for a retail channel, much more important for the pro channel. This is where, we're growing this channel with Harmony, really promoting Harmony Pro, which is a pro product, and really reaching out to installers to start seeing, which features should we enroll out first? Well, we want to know if we start putting a lot of resources on a certain feature, will that help you sell more Harmony remotes? And that's why we're going to look at maybe with more upcoming surveys perhaps, or other forms that we can reach out and really see where we can prioritize. And we really want to have installers involved in that as well.
Yep.
Okay, so we're getting, the chat box is lighting up here. Are the Sony projectors on the IP control protocol?
Not at this moment yet.
Okay, and then the next one that pops up is, what are the AVR brands that we can currently support over IP control?
At this point, we do not control any through IP as of yet. So we've done a lot of research in the back end, and I do foresee once we, have cleared a lot of our backlog this year, because we, as Brett mentioned, the teaser, we are working on a new hub, and we just launched the portal. So those are two very important pieces that we feel apply to installers' daily lives when it comes to, selling Harmony remotes. Then we can really start rolling out IP control a lot more.
So and it's interesting. So we launched a survey yesterday. Rick, I'll send you over a link, and I'd love to get all the people that are on here, because we asked the question, like, how important is IP control? Because I think that you're not hearing any difference from us. We would love to have IP support on all of it. When we look at the big numbers as a whole, it's like, 2 to 3% are using IP, but you get chicken and eggs into, is that because you don't have more brands with IP? So, like I said, it's one of those things, but we'd love to get it on there. We'd love to get it on more devices. So whatever your brand preference is, that, we can control those. So yeah, definitely, when we send out surveys and when we do things like that, your responses are appreciated and helps us to, fight the good fight for you guys as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and I have some information I can share with you. I just don't want it on the recording, so we'll talk offline.
Perfect.
All right. Doug is asking, can we have multiple hubs connected to voice?
Yes and no at this point. We understand that that is a huge ask. We are dependent on the infrastructure that is put in place at this point. So in short, using the Harmony skill with Alexa or Google, you can tie in one hub. However, what we see a lot of installers doing is tying in the secondary hub through either IFT. So you basically then do it through IFT. And again, you can simplify that as well by, instead of having say IFT, you can do that into a routine where you just say, just like I said, Google make me a fire. That's not the activity, right? You can link that and make it much more user friendly. And that allows you to control that secondary hub. Yonomi also has that ability, and so does Stringify. So there are some alternative paths to controlling that secondary hub. But at this point, it's one. We hope to eventually, depending on where Alexa and Google kind of, build how they build their platform, then we can, support multi-room. Again, we understand that's supported by their own system and by smart home, but the way that we interface with it right now, it's a single room solution with voice. So. Great question. Keep them coming.
Okay, so we've got some more.
Okay.
All right. All right, Dirk is asking, when you have devices hooked to the network and the software looks for the devices and doesn't find them all, how do you know what is truly being controlled IP versus IR or through the hub? And is there a way to force control over IP?
That's a great question. Right now, we just basically have a list which I can mention, just because yes, it is a bit confusing, and we've identified that in the software, and we hope again this is a feature that we eventually want to push for as well, to really determine how you are controlling that device. Right now, that's not exposed, and we understand that is a pain point. Because we do discover devices that are not IP controllable. We want to discover as many devices to avoid having to put in the model number. So even the Xbox 360 or an Xbox One is discovered. Right now, as it stands for IP, like I said, when it comes to Sony televisions, it's Sony televisions. When it comes to TV providers, we support Dish. So the Dish Hopper and Joey, we detect and we control through IP. Roku, as we've mentioned, we control through IP, and of course Sonos and HEOS. And again, we also have a lot of APIs through Smart Home, of course, that we control through IP.
Nest,
Nest,
Ecobee, certain Honeywells, and then over Bluetooth. So what we would still consider non-IR, right? Even though it's not IP, we can control Sony PlayStation 4s. 3.
Nintendo Wii.
And we've got some
home
great
theater
ones.
PCs. So if you run Plex maybe on a home theater, we control that. NVIDIA Shield. The NVIDIA Shield doesn't have IR. Fire TV doesn't have IR, depending on what model. So those devices we control through Bluetooth as well.
So there's quite a few in there. You know, what we've done, and again, we can start sharing as we're creating more trainings on these things. You know, I've got sales classes that we've been building that kind of show here's kind of what a bundle looks like. You know, that again, it's you guys' decision on what products that you're selling. You know, but here are kind of the favorite ones that we know work well, that we know dealers that are doing really, really well. You know, guys like JJ out in Digital Delight and Steve at MediaHead. You know, they're doing 400 or 500 remotes a year. These guys are just knocking it out of the park, and they're simplifying their solutions with things that they know work. They go in, it's a step and repeat, you know, and again, it's allowed them to do just some phenomenal business out there. So that's kind of the IP level on that. But to his point, when we're scanning, think of the scanning as just looking for devices. A lot of them are IR. The idea is that it just saves you the time of having to enter it in. If they broadcast a model name, we're just pulling that information in for you. It has nothing to do specifically with whether or not that device is IP.
Okay, so next question, pretty similar. So Matthew says that he's got some connectivity issues sometimes where the Nest or the Sonos falls offline. Now, we hear that quite a bit with Nest because it's cloud, but he says he posted a follow-up in the chat box. He said in his case, a Cisco Meraki for Wi-Fi, stable, good coverage everywhere. The remote shows red for the Nest and the Sonos, and then it'll just come back. So any tips for his situation?
So my first thing, and he'll know it better, but my first thing would be, and we can show you guys how to do it, is to submit logs. So if you're seeing issues like that, where all of a sudden something can't control in the remote, and when you go into the gear icon, you have the ability to submit logs, and that basically takes all the code and all the commands that were in that area and allows it to be flagged so that we can see it. So I'd say that's
send an email on the dealer support that you with the time stamp that you submitted the log with the issue as well. That's very important. Nest actually was down yesterday, and we saw it on our system, but they didn't communicate that to the outside world as fast. Maybe they thought it was resolved. So sometimes these things happen kind of outside our control as well. Sonos, quite interested to see, like we both run a ton of Sonos at home. I'm in the studio, but I still have 8 different Sonos speakers and 4 different rooms. So definitely something we would like to see what's that root cause.
I mean, I know, and like I said, obviously, fans of a lot of stuff we carry. I'm always testing new stuff in the house, but obviously, like I said, I have a lot of Sonos. You know, I think sometimes like I'm listening and it drops for a second and it picks back up, or it, you know, stops and I hit play again and it starts. So sometimes it's difficult when you're putting all these different systems together to know exactly what and where. But it shouldn't be dropping. I mean, from that perspective, it shouldn't be dropping. If it does, definitely, like I said, submit the logs, submit an email into customer service, or give them a shout, and we can, you know, we can definitely start working on that.
Just very quickly on network optimization, something I do at home, and it's not just Harmony, it will make things faster. If the power drops or things reboot, again, we work fine. You know, when we do IP address, you don't have to put in a MAC address or anything, but on the back end, it's strongly advised, and not just for Harmony, to optimize the network is to do DHCP reservations. And I've done it with all my Sonos speakers, and every single device in my household, I like to give it a permanent kind of IP address. So it's not a static network, but I'm just doing DHCP reservation, which most routers, and maybe you're already doing that, but something I highly recommend to make the network a little bit faster when a device needs to reconnect. They don't need to scan for the new IP that might have changed because they have that dedicated IP address. So excellent.
Yep.
Next question.
And just so you know, I happen to have a different discussion on this. We rescan the network, so if a Sonos device falls off, we rescan for it at minimum once an hour. So because people are changing things, something falls off, something goes back on, we're always rescanning it so that it can hopefully hop back onto the network later on, and that's automatic in the background.
Okay, so I guess a follow-up question to that is, can we force a scan either from the remote or from the dashboard?
If you refresh it,
you can scan. So let me see. I can actually show this. So that's a great question. Why don't we take another question while I actually show you how to do that? Let's take the next question. I'm going to actually share my screen and then get back to that question.
Sure. The next question is, Apple TV, is it controlled IP or IR?
So it is controlled over IR. Apple this last year did release, some IP integrations. So like I said, that's something that we're working on. But it is IR right now. But then also Pike has, so there's a setup that we've released, slightly unofficial, but it's been tested for over a year over Bluetooth. And that actually seems to be working pretty well. It's how Pike controls his. It's how we control the ones here, and a lot of times we'll recommend that for people as well. So if you don't want to run an IR bug to it specifically, then you can run it over Bluetooth instead.
Yeah, that's what I'm using right here. So if you want to know how to add that, again, just go to the beloved chatbot or hit search, type in Apple TV on the site, and we'll bring you to the Apple TV experience article. So we don't just necessarily call it a support article. It is partial support, partial experience on how we work with that device. And within that article on the bottom, there's a section on how to add the Bluetooth version. So it's not listed under Apple as a manufacturer. The manufacturer is actually Harmony Beta, and then the model is Test Apple TV. So again, great question, and that's something we hopefully eventually want to make fully public, but it's still beta testing in this phase. That being said, I've been using it for over a year at home myself. So coming back to the Sonos question, as you can see here, these are all my devices. So I'm just going to quickly jump back. So when you go back after you've done a setup, and actually for time constraint, I'm going to leave it here. But basically on the control app, if you go in the menu, followed by Harmony setup, and then you can edit the devices and activities, you get to this settings landing page. And this is where I can do additional programming after I've done the configuration. So I'm going to go to devices. I'm going to now select the Sonos in this case. And you can see here are all my Sonos devices. And if I do a refresh, it does an actual forced scan. If I want more information on the dining room Sonos, I can click on it there as well. So that's basically how you could, if you've added a new Sonos and you want to add it, you just hit the refresh and we'll discover it there. So excellent, great question. Next question.
Okay, perfect. I'm such a Luddite, I didn't even know that Apple TVs had Bluetooth.
Yeah.
That's for a while.
That's actually how they're the new remotes in their
really?
410
just on the 4K?
Run over Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my last Apple TV was at number 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. So we have a question here. I can no longer start programming with an Android phone or tablet. Is this a common issue?
Was this question, was the programming, was this adding a new customer from the portal? Because when we went live for a couple of days, that wasn't supported, but we released a new Android build. So perhaps reach out to me direct by email, but download the latest Android build. And if that doesn't work, send me an email or call me, and we can make sure we look into that. But again, Android is tested every day by our QA team. It should function. Again, what's different with iOS and Android, there are so many different platforms. So from time to time, a certain phone with a certain build, with a certain release might have a certain issue, but the team is very fast on addressing that. We have a dedicated Android team as well. So yeah, again, try the new Android build. If it doesn't work, please reach out to myself.
Okay, this is Doug in Indiana. He's left the call already, so I'll ask one of the Kevins to reach out to him and tell him that he should go into his app store and see if there's an update on his app and give it a shot and then reach out to you guys.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay. One issue I have seen in the dealer portal, all of the remotes cannot be named. I have multiple remotes that are all Harmony Pro.
So
yeah, he says he can't name the remotes in all of the remotes in the dealer portal.
So that's a great question. So IR remotes cannot be named, but any hub-based remote, and again, the Pro remote, the Harmony Pro is really for this channel. You can definitely name it, and you actually name the hub. So basically, under settings, when we click remote and hub, this is underneath there, you actually have the hub name. And then from here, you can actually name it living room or kitchen. In this case, we call it the experience room. So this can definitely be done. Again, if you want to see the steps, we have an article for this as well. But it's basically just a recap. It's under remote and hub settings. So you go to remote and hub, and then select hub name. Great question.
So that's while you're in the editing of that remote.
Yeah, and then
so it's not
reflect on
but just to clarify, it's not on the portal. There it shows whatever the existing one is. If you were trying to change that name, hit edit remote.
Yeah.
That'll pop up the Harmony app, and then that's the pages that Pike's on, and then that's where you're going to go and rename it. And then when you come back and you refresh it the next time you go into that client, you'll have a different name on the hub. Because yeah, you should definitely be naming hubs if you have more than one in there by room. I definitely don't have them all just say Harmony Hub. That becomes, yeah, it's hard to see on there, but you can see one's webinar on here. So every one of his hubs on here has a different name.
Excellent.
Okay. How many hubs can you have in one project? Do you say 15 or 16?
15.
Yeah.
Okay.
15 under one household, and we see the account as one household, and we can't stress enough for installers not to mix customers under the same email. That creates a mess. And you can see products like Sonos or Nest or Heels don't allow that either. That unique client ideally needs to be the client's email. And
when you find the guy that's got more than 15 remotes to go into the house, you send him over to us.
Yeah.
We'll figure something out for him.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a follow-up question here based on my own experience.
Yep.
So when I was out in the field, I had a lot of clients that had multiple homes, but obviously they still only have one email address that they use. If a customer has like a lake house or another residence in another part of the country or something like that, how would you handle that?
I would still, if they're less than 15, I would still handle it under the same account. Or there's a very cool trick which is called forwarding with email. So for instance, this email is logismarthome@gmail. I would do, if you do logismarthome plus cabin or East Coast @gmail.com, it goes to that same email address. But our backend sees it as a unique address, but you can then still, that same, exactly, you use an alias. That being said, if they're not gonna max 15, you can also use the naming convention. You could do living room cabin and normal living room. So there's
And that's,
two ways.
yeah, I think that's how I would do it as well. Like here we could see it's Mark Baker.
Yeah.
Mark Baker, the first two hubs are, you just have to, in your naming of the
The
hub.
location of the hub.
Yeah, so, it can be this
Yeah.
street or this city,
Yeah.
bedroom, and then this one, and then the other one says cabin.
Yeah.
So not difficult at all, but you just get to that 15 limit max.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just set up a new account, and just like Pike said, super easy with kind of a sub email.
Yeah, and then just to add to that question, what we didn't cover mention something very important. This portal allows you to remotely access those clients, right? You don't need to be on the location. Once you've programmed this remote, if I click edit remote, you can then have you can make changes to the account from your office, and especially on the actual tablet, it's very easy because it will, as you're making the changes, it already instantly starts pushing the changes to the hub. So it will reflect instantly on the client's remote as well.
Well, and a big thing for this, you guys looking at this specific example, if I've got a cabin house, and I'm going to go up there, I'm not up there all the time. I want that heat on, I want things like that. If I go from the phone app, I can basically switch between the hubs that I'm at when I'm at my house, and all I do is select a new hub. I select the cabin hub, and maybe I have my Nest thermostat turned on to that, and I can trigger that from my phone, so that client can easily, if you have going to the cabin activity, that can start turning on lights and turning on, the thermostat and anything else that you need going on in there. Pumps and things like that depending on where they're at. So again, great ways to be able to use Harmony for those second homes, tied together in a system.
Excellent.
Okay, now we've got some really advanced questions.
Nice.
So using the IFTTT or
Yeah.
IFT, so Pike, I'm going to steal that. I'm just going to call it IFT from now on.
I like IFT, although,
It's just fine.
So do we have access to email and SMS servers to create notifications based on events, either native through Harmony Pro or through IFT?
That one I haven't tested. So, I mean, you can do a lot of triggers. So if there's a trigger on email, let's see here. So send if, okay, that's a trigger. Can you repeat the question once more? Just want to
Okay.
get the details.
I'll give a scenario here.
Yeah.
So let's say there's an app, Chamberlain Garage Doors.
Mhm.
That's got an app, and you have a Chamberlain garage door event, like a garage door goes open or a garage door goes closed or something like that, and I want to generate an email or a text, an SMS text to say, garage door bay 3 door is open.
Yeah, so that can be done, but this would, we don't support garage doors openers, but for instance, a Samsung SmartThings does. So you would do this
Okay.
through kind of text notifications. So I believe that can be done.
Okay.
So if you can just drop me, because I'm more than happy to see what's out there. Can you send me an email on that question? We can actually go on IFT and see kind of what options are there.
Yeah.
So we'll take a little bit of research.
I think my thing is to the same kind of point. Yeah, we can tie into a SmartThings that then ties into possibly garage door. That garage door opener can start sending notifications.
Yeah, and IFT sends notifications. So sorry, actually, to cut you off, you get a notification when an action happens.
Yeah.
But if you left it open, we'll look into it.
Yeah, so we can look at different ways. I think one of the things that I always look at with these more IoT type devices is that everything doesn't have to run through the control system. That's the way we all grew up, was everything had to tie into, the C4, the URC, the RTI. And, with a lot of these, it's like if Google or Alexa can just control one specific light, why not just have it control the light? Why have all these extra activities running through Harmony? And I think that's the way I look at some of these things. If I've got a Chamberlain garage door, it's already sending out text notifications. I would probably leave that. If somebody actually wanted an activity that was Harmony based,
that could be
triggering, then we could figure something like that. I don't see as many of those. Whereas I look at things like, again, I've had dealers ask me, like, are you going to do an integration with Ratio? which makes some really cool sprinkler stuff, right? And my thing is, I don't know that I see a huge need for it. Like, am I on my remote and I really need to hit the button to turn on the sprinklers? When the idea of Ratio is that it's fully automated, right? So it knows when the weather's coming, when it's drier, when it's colder, when it's wet. But that fact that I can control Harmony through Alexa and I can control Ratio through Alexa means that there's still a seamless integration for that consumer. They just ask Alexa to do whatever it is that they need to do. And that's how I kind of look at a lot of these things is integrating systems in cleanly, but the easiest way possible.
I mean, the way I would do this, and like I'll look at the use case and I can reach out. So here, just very quickly, where there's a good Harmony use case, this is, for instance, an integration with another company where, when you plug this into your vehicle, it can actually use as kind of your vehicle as a location device. So if you pull up in your driveway, it could start a Harmony activity, and when you leave, it could turn it off. So that's a use case for us. That being said, again, what I have here, based on, the last member leaves, you can always set it, well, if I leave my house, there's no one home, then lower the garage door opener as a precaution, right? So you can do that depending on what type of garage opener. And then, for instance, this you could trigger with SmartThings. So you could say, if the last member has left, which in this case, I'm turning off Harmony activity, but you can also say, well, then, turn off, close the garage door. So it would be a similar use case to this as well.
Yep, and then if sends you a notification on your phone saying
if you want it, you can enable that,
yeah.
Which is great. So this I like. A lot of times, eventually, when you feel confident it works really well, you can turn that off. But especially when you're just testing this is great. You get that little pop-up on your phone, like, okay, it executed it. And it shows here, based on the log. So this is a test account, but if I would log in mine or on my app, there's an IFT app as well, I can actually see the last time it ran. So there's a timestamp. So excellent, great question.
Yeah.
Next question. Got some more advanced ones?
All right, let's see if we got any more here. All right. Sorry, I moved the chat window so that I could follow along with what you were doing because I'm just running this off my laptop here.
Not a problem.
Okay.
I need to find my chat window. The controller.
I don't know where your controller went.
Well, we're in the questions window. We have a different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I have a controller too, so yeah, we're still getting used to this webinar software as well.
Okay. David is asking, is there any tie into Apple Home?
HomeKit?
I'm assuming HomeKit, and I'm also maybe assuming their new speaker.
Yeah.
Hey Siri.
Yeah, at this point, we don't have an integration with Apple. We're really looking at, how that product is taking off. We definitely see a tremendous lift with Google and Amazon, and I do feel that Apple is close to follow. But at this time, we don't have an integration as of yet. That being said, there is a thing called Siri shortcuts. We don't really have enough time to cover that, but you can trigger through Siri shortcuts specific activities. There's ways of tying that in through IFT and other platforms as well. So.
Okay, so next question comes from Jeff. He asks if the Elite and the Pro remotes can be updated remotely or just the Pro.
Both. Anything with the hub.
Any hub-based remote can be triggered and modified, yeah.
Okay. All right, so David asked a question. Are there any particular challenges or workarounds if you are on a site that does not yet have internet access?
Use your phone. There's
Hotspot,
yeah. I mean, the reality, I get it, and this comes up, from time to time. The Harmony will always program in the cloud. It makes it so that you can go from anywhere. It allows us to pull the latest data, down, not what might be, on a specific desktop. it's just always been the way that it is. And for most people, especially nowadays where there is internet and so readily available. But I know for Pike and myself, I mean, we're oftentimes in hotels and doing other things as we're traveling. And yeah, a good hotspot, using a phone.
We don't require tremendous bandwidth. You can set this up on a 5 meg connection. Well, everything, of course, a little bit slower, but it works. We do it all the time. We're in basements of hotels.
Yeah.
It works.
The other thing that I think we come to where this sometimes comes into play is a lot of us in the industry, we've come into like, oh, I'm going to set this up in my office, in my home, wherever first, right? I'm going to preset it so that I don't have any issues later on. And then when I go in there, I just kind of install it. And I get that. But the idea here is the Harmony is so simple to program and it's so straightforward. You just want to do it one time, and that's where people get confused, or they start now they've paired the hub into the network in their office building. And, now as things go IP, now that Sonos is tied into that same system. So now when you go to the client's home, you now have to basically rip all those things off of the networks that they were on to put them onto the new networks, later on. So in all honesty, the way that we view it is, do your pre-wire, do, whatever you're trying to do to set up. We'd obviously get that, sometimes the internet isn't turned on from that perspective. If you need to use a hotspot, and you can definitely program because it's not that data intensive. But then you're going to end up moving when we're talking about things nowadays. If you're putting in audio, if you're putting in Nest, you need the network to program any of those devices.
You need to start with the network in the home, to make sure that all these connected devices are set up, and you want to do the Harmony once those devices are all connected. And again, this is where, like, if you look at this, and we've had so many testimonies, we've had installers that were skeptical about our product and they've given it to their office admin that doesn't do any installations, and they've witnessed them setting it up in 30 minutes. I kid you not. This is just a quick overview. I mean, it's because, we need to be fast, simple, and easy to set up, because we also have that, that retail channel that is just expecting that kind of experience. So we drive that, and installers benefit from that because they can actually set this product up in less than 30 minutes. And then you can always build, additional advanced macros. Now, that being said, what we see some installers do, you can set up the basic setup there with the consultation, and then you can remotely tweak the account, right? So that's another option.
Yeah, which is very cool, actually. So once that hub is on the network, it obviously just has to be live to be able to get,
you need one sync.
data.
You need to do one final sync. So you add one device, one activity, and then be on your way. And then it's a completed config that you can alter and you're done.
Yep.
Yeah. Great question.
Oh, nice. That's a great tip.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got a couple questions here about range and communication. So what is the communication between the remotes and the hubs?
It's the same technology that is in Logitech's keyboards. This is a great keyboard, by the way, for smart TVs, the K600. That aside, so what we use is a 2.4 proprietary gigahertz RF channel that is constantly adapting to the environment so that it is not prone to as much interference, especially these keyboards and mice, are nearby other devices. So it constantly kind of adapts itself to a channel to best communicate on. So it is RF technology between the remote and the hub. The range can definitely vary on your environment. It's anywhere, I would say on average, 30, 40 feet, but it could also be surpassing 50 or dropping to 20, depending on your installs. What we see a lot as some best practices, if the devices are not in the same location, there is two ways. Like maybe the hub is not too far away in that next room that the remote can reach it. If the remote cannot reach it, you do the reversal. So you put the remote and the hub in the same room, but the IR emitters, and again, those IR emitters, you can cut them and stick, Cat6 or Cat5 between it. I've made a 100-foot cable myself and it works great. And you can just wire it, to any conduct piping or anything you have open, and then channel it to the other devices. So that's another a great tip if you need to extend the range.
Okay, that's great advice. So I didn't know if it was Wi-Fi or not. So we had the same situation where a dealer had remotely extend. He was going to put the hub in a VersaBox, which is like a steel enclosure behind a television, and he wound up putting it out in free air, so the radio signal could get to it a little bit better. And then he just piped the emitter feeds into that box, so that
we see a lot of installers doing that nowadays.
So just to recap, because that's Pike said it just perfect, but I also have, so in my house, so I actually have my hub in a VersaBox, on a VersaBox with the articulating arm. So my TV is right on top of it, and I'm still able to get in. That's my bedroom, so it's 16 feet deep. And I'm still able to use my remote in there. So a lot of times it will work. Otherwise, like you said, putting it outside and then running the cables in. But we get a lot of guys that, as they start using Harmony more and more, obviously going into bigger and bigger installs. And so once you get into those basements, sometimes again, it's just the materials and all the other pieces, or some other noise in there just creates that dead spot. So definitely the way we recommend it is, if you put the hub behind the TV, most people, what they do is the hub is in the equipment rack, and then they're running an IR feed, probably through a Balun, up through, and then an IR going to the TV, right? So that they can plug the TV. Just do it the opposite way. Put the hub behind the TV, run the IR, across the CAT through a Balun, and then just run the IR emitter leads down into the equipment closet, and then it works just fine. So again, two ways to be able to do that, and that really the dealers, we're the first to say, like, this hub was initially designed to be in the same room. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
It has range to go further, but as you get in there, it starts. That's a picture of part of my rack that I'm redoing right now, so you can see how I've redone what some of my source units look like. So, it's really just, it's changing in how a lot of these systems are being built and what needs to go in there, and how it's set up. But it requires a different way of thinking, frankly, in my mind. Like I'm definitely putting streamers, and like in my VersaBox, I've got, a mini cable box. I've got an Apple TV, a Fire TV, and my Harmony hub, and a 5-port Ethernet. So I've got an Ethernet drop that drops in there, allows everything to connect that can connect by Ethernet. And then I've got a watt box in there so I can control all my stuff oversee to kill any outlets if I ever need to reset anything. And like I said, it works great because I could be watching an Apple TV in the family room and watching something on Netflix. I pause it, I walk into the master bedroom, and I don't have, actually I should say, I could start on a Roku in my family room, watching Netflix. I pause it, I walk into my bedroom, which I didn't put a Roku in there. I have an Apple TV and a Fire TV. Go on to Apple TV, resume Netflix, and I'm within a second. I mean, that's why we do video distribution typically in homes. But the reality is I can do all of that without needing the video distribution switch, and still get, great looking installs because I'm simplifying, putting in effectively 2 or 3 small racks like with VersaBoxes, versus doing one big head-end system, which often creates some additional headaches.
Yeah. Great question.
Yep.
All right. I'm definitely going to follow up with you on that, pausing and resuming Netflix. That's something I can use at my own house.
Yeah, I
think.
Go ahead.
The next question is about Bluetooth. So you mentioned earlier Bluetooth control of the Apple TV, and obviously we always talk about Bluetooth control for the gaming systems that use it.
Yep.
Is the Bluetooth coming from the remote or from the base station or both?
That's a great question. Yeah. That's like 5 bonus points right there. Just going back to the hub has 3 different types of control technologies. The remote is basically RF only, and it talks to the hub. It's basically, they're just tied together, but this is really the brain. So this has of course, the RF to communicate to the remote. It has the Wi-Fi to be controlled by the app or different APIs or different IP devices. And then it has the Bluetooth to control PlayStation, Fire TV, Apple TVs. The Bluetooth is definitely in the hub. This way, this is always plugged in, right? So to preserve battery life, we just let that guy do his RF thing, which is, definitely gonna consume less battery life, and let the hub do all the other work.
Now, with that being said, the one exception to that is obviously if in programming, you assign a device to come out of the remote. There is obviously an IR emitter on there. So that works really well. There are times where people, and I'm going to qualify this in a second, the equipment's all in the closet. They have the hub, they have everything wired they just can't find a way to get a bug onto the TV for control, and they'll start firing it and program it out of the remote. Absolutely, it can be done. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Here's my qualification, and it's twofold. One, now we're looking at IR again. It's direct, so you get into did they move the remote around? When it was trying to fire that signal to the TV, or the gap between when the TV starts and the input changes, so it needs to be pointed that way. The second piece of this comes in as technology is changing. So if I want to trigger something from the app, or I want to trigger something from voice, from Google or Alexa, the remote is in a sleep mode. And you also don't know where the remote is. It could be buried in couch cushions. It could be wherever, right? So the remote is not a reliable way to send a command to a TV other than when the remote is in your hand and actually pointing at the TV. So what we always tell people is, if you need to do it, it can absolutely be done. But if you're thinking about voice control, if you're thinking about app control, any of those pieces that way, you really want to tie everything into the hub from a control perspective, because that way, like Pike said, it's always on, it's always in the same place. So it's going to fire reliably versus, again, somebody put the blanket over the remote, so there's no way for it to.
And that's why, if you could see this, you can change this by IR assignment, just to, add to what Brett mentions. By default, all the devices that we control through IR are assigned to the hub and the emitters. And just going back to the hub itself has 6 IR emitters, 2 forward, 2 outward, 2 upwards. And then of course you have the emitter. So by default, it's blasting everywhere, with the exception of the remote. Again, the remote, we can't stress enough, that's your last resort, because the customer has to aim it. As Brett mentioned it, you can't wake it up with voice or Google routines or your app. So it's really, you want to avoid that whenever possible. Now, if you want to assign a device, or maybe you want to assign a specific port, because maybe you have 2 same devices connected on the same stack, you can actually go into and assign a port. Or maybe you don't want to flood the Xbox, with additional IR commands from different devices. I can actually associate it to port 1 or port 2, or in that other example, if you assign it to the remote as an option as well. And you can do that right here from the app, or do that remotely as
and
well.
You guys, those ports are, just like I said, assignable. So port 1, port 2. So if you do have two of the same devices, maybe it's 2 Apple TVs, 2 cable boxes, 2 whatever, you can absolutely assign port 1 and port 2. And especially with the Pro remote, because you have the bugs. The problem is when you use a blaster, you may assign it to port 1, but if you're using a blaster, it's still blasting all over. It's going to probably hit whatever the second device is. But if you're using the IR emitters that come on the Pro, you put that on there, you put you put your boot on top of it. Now it's not going to bleed signal, and now you can absolutely control multiple devices.
Excellent.
Cool.
Next question.
Okay, and then obviously if you've got 2 Apple TVs, we can have one IR and the other Bluetooth, correct?
Yeah, which you can do as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, that sounds like a good workaround. All right, the next question that we have come up, we were just talking about the app a moment ago. Dirk says he has experienced devices and transport keys not working on the app on the iPhone, but still working on the Pro remote. Any suggestions or ideas on how to resolve that?
Contact us. We would need to know a specific device or configuration. It might be something specific. So
yeah, it's not. I mean, as far as we've seen, we sit right next to the heads of customer service as well.
There is just to give some data. We're near 2 million hubs connected on our system. So if this was a known issue, we would have known, or a common issue for that matter. So we maybe perhaps it's something with the actual device data. So to definitely reach out to us and we can investigate.
Yeah, we'll definitely take a look. Otherwise, the classic: turn it off, turn it back on again. remove the app, put it back on. It's all technology, so sometimes something gets corrupted in there. But yeah, for the most part, shouldn't have an issue.
Okay, and then this is the last question.
Okay.
So far, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat or the questions box. Do the Pro and Oversee play together to give notifications directly to an Oversee app?
They do not as of now.
Okay, perfect. So
That is my
as of
short
right
answer.
now, the
I-
only thing that would happen is the Pro obviously would be listed on the connected devices list
Yes.
of the Oversee, and you can tell it to, if it stops responding, to then send a notification, just as you could with any other device on the network.
Yeah. So you're saying, I'm assuming if it's connected to an Arachnid or into a Watt box. So mine is set up on there, and yeah, if it was disconnected or if my internet went out or anything like that. So yeah, it's somewhat limited in there. I am just starting to play. Like I said, I've got a 42 space rack that sits in my family room. That one's got 3 of the 12 controlled. So 3 of the rack mounted, 12 outlet IPs, and then a VersaBox in my master bedroom with the 5, and then another one going in. So I am starting to play around with the Oversee product. I've been loving it, frankly. I think it's great for, again, self-healing. And I mean, there's so many things that you can do with it that I think opens the door, and even RMR and things like that for dealers. So I think it's great with it. Obviously, it takes a little bit to do an integration. I have an Oversee, my Lutron Ratu Select. I have the one particularly with Oversee in it. So like I said, big fan, definitely looking at different ways to be able to do stuff, but nothing as of today.
Okay, and then there is one last question that came from David. Is he allowed to use Logitech Pro logos in marketing materials, and where do we find them?
Sure. So can you pull up
I was about to.
Thank you, sir. I know. So we're going to pull up the e-learning page. We'll show you where to find them. If somebody wants to put some stuff up there, like I said, this should give them a lot of what they need. I am always adding new things up there. Or if there's something specific that you guys are looking for, we can definitely help you out. I can definitely help you out. But if you go in, so when you log into the dealer portal and you click on the e-learning section, so then that brings you to here. You're going to click on resources. And then from here, this has a bunch of different stuff. So this actually has past webinars that we've done. Can you click on, go in the search. Let's look at you already got one, so that's fine. So he clicked on a Harmony Pro and Hub with app high-res PNG. So every image that I put up here is a high-res PNG. So all the backgrounds are clipped. So, you can put it on whatever you want and everything's, cleared, translucent behind it. I have lifestyle shots. So, kind of showing in a home kind of thing, oftentimes with some Sonos products or things like that. And then I have, I believe, some videos up there as well. So you have a few different options. Anything that's up there, you guys are welcome to download and grab. And if you have something more specific that you're trying to do, there's a lifestyle image. Then let me know, shoot me an email directly, and I'm always happy to kind of set that stuff up. But definitely take a look. Or we find a lot of dealers that, we love the fact that you're putting this up there, but have like one of our very old Logitech logos. Like I said, we want to make sure that you get them updated. So we'll probably.
Yeah, we need to put the Logitech logo on here.
I don't know if I do not have one on there, then I will make sure I get one on
there. Make that an action item.
Yep. So, but yeah, Rick, definitely, if he's got questions, you're welcome to give him my email, shoot him out. I'll get him whatever logos he needs, immediately. Okay. And then, but then this is, again, a great resource.
Is there a dedicated logo for the Harmony Pro authorized dealers?
There is not yet. We're doing some additional branding that we've looked at and things like that for this year. This last year, as we've been building it, so much of our time's been spent on building the e-learning center, building the dealer portal, working on new product, that, it's been, we need to do the big heavy lifting stuff. Now that that's done, I've been saying that I'm probably going to dedicate more of my time to that sales and marketing piece. How can we help dealers grow their business? How can we look at, those things that they need? And obviously some branding, some tchotchkes, all that kind of stuff, is likely coming in for this year. So yeah, right now it would be a Logitech logo, or possibly a Harmony logo, but Logitech usually works.
Yeah.
And then shortly we'll have, we're actually in the middle of creating more classes so we can do a certification program. And at that point, then we'll probably have that certified, Logi Pro or Logitech Pro, logo coming out.
Okay, then one last question.
Yep.
So this is from me since, as I said in the beginning of the call, I just started with the portal.
Yep.
Is there a library listing of the articles? You've been referring to the articles multiple times in the call, and we went to the chat bot to find the articles. But if I wanted to, or if anyone on the call wanted to task one of their new installers, I really want you to come up to speed with Harmony. Obviously, we've got the kind of the broad strokes views, and there I saw the classes, but where do I find the articles?
They are all on our basically.
I'm sorry, go back a page. So I just want to make sure, because this is where they need to see, so back to the dealer portal.
Oh.
I just want to make sure that they truly see the.
Yeah.
So this is the dealer portal homepage again, right? So this is where everything exists. So if you went to the e-learning tab, we won't do that right now, but if you go to the e-learning tab, like we were saying, there's multiple classes. So that's the perfect place to get a brand new installer up and running, because they can literally see how to program it, and they should be able to program right along with it. The dealer support site that Pike was talking about, it has almost anything that you could ask for, is down in this bottom. So we made it in a big blue link, and that will always be there. So where it says dealer support site, that's where all the articles are available. And then if you just search, you can search for whatever you want. So that's where the bot is, and the search and all the articles are.
And the bot's there too. Yeah.
And that was, so the articles that I think everyone's going to go to after this call would be the voice integration, Alexa and Google Home. So they're right in there, right? You just
Yeah, and then not just that. So I mean, this is the way. Like I was gonna say, yeah, get your account registered. I'm this whole day, every hour, I am going to check if there is new submissions for dealer accounts, and I'm going to activate them on the fly. So I would highly recommend to start with step one. Not that you can't read them, but basically. Step one, create that dealer account. Again, that's how you can get enrolled in more contests. You know, that is the key. And then that gives you also those links, so you don't have to bookmark them, that they're all there. And then, yeah, definitely Alexa is there. Again, if you're on the job, well, it's great because our content writer pushes Google really well. I'm just gonna type in, anytime you're on Google or whatever, my Harmony, and I'm gonna do Google Home or Alexa, it's there. Like, so that's another backbone you have. But yeah, we want to make it much easier than just having to Google your way through this, of course. So I definitely suggest, start with this. And again, the Alexa, there's an Alexa training there as well, right, under the e-learning that we've created. And we'll definitely have to put a Google one up. We've been holding off on Google because there's been tremendous amount of software iterations with Google. I think they broke a new record, but I think now it's finally, with the new app that's really polished, it's settled down. So I will definitely also start looking at that, creating training for that as well. So
yeah, so there's a ton of stuff there, you guys. What we find is once guys get into it and they've played with it, I mean, we really don't get, that's my phone was buzzing because I actually have a dealer talking with customer service right now that I'm trying to help. But for the most part, I mean, we get very few calls, frankly, because once they understand the system, it's really easy. But when we do, just like this, like I said, we kind of jump right on them. So, like I said, definitely though, e-learning site, we're adding more courses.
Yeah.
We've been, like I said, really busy, putting stuff together. But like I said, we're really looking at, what do the dealers want? What are the dealers looking for?
Yeah, definitely take the survey, which again, there's a contest for the survey too. So it's going to take you some time, but it will be definitely worth your time. So, and again, we're going to, we'll be sharing that data with installers as well. We all want to become a big think tank and help you guys succeed in this channel, which your success is our success, of course.
Yep. What else you got, Rick? What can we do for you?
We're an hour and 20 minutes over, but we're finally done. I want to thank you guys a ton.
Good new records, so
we
on the call. We had great engagement on this call today. So thanks to everyone who's still on the call. We still have 2/3 of the.
Yeah, I'm looking at that as well. So yes, thank you guys for hanging out. Yeah. Hopefully, you guys are staying warm, and I know it's dangerous. So if you are out there, obviously be careful driving around and everything else. But we appreciate the time, you guys. We know a lot of you guys are already Harmony users. and just kind of re-engaging. We know some people are obviously not Harmony users. And I definitely just say, thanks for jumping on. And if you haven't played with the Harmony in a while, definitely give it a shot. I always tell people that it's probably the biggest thing that I get is people that just haven't used it in, 5, 8, 10 years, and it's different. And the tools that we're setting up, like I said, we're here specifically for this channel. We have the knowledge, we have the experience to be able to build these things out for you guys. All we want to do is help support it because, like Pike said, if you guys win, we win. And it allows us to build more and cooler products for this channel specifically, which is, I think, what we all want. And that allows us to do more stuff. So we appreciate the business and happy to help support however we can.
All right.
Thank you
So
all.
thank you everyone for joining us on the webinar today. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Brett, give me a call here at the office in a little bit when you get settled in.
Not a problem. Calling the field.
All right. Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
guys. Have a good one.